My ex-girlfriend invited me to her wedding with the intention of humiliating me by showing off her rich new partner, so I brought a special guest as my plus one. By the end of the night, she was left crying because her marriage was over. Despite her yelling, I kept my calm and reminded her that every man has different needs. Ben clearly came from an affluent family, hence, he might not care as much as I do about his career, but I like my career. I also told her that if she wanted a man like Ben, she should be with him. I told her that we should not argue about this further and that she could move out of our place as soon as she could. Her eyes widened, and she asked me how I could afford to pay rent. I explained to her that I had received a raise in my salary and that I was now capable of paying the entire rent without having any roommates. Hearing this, she began to shout, telling me that I was trying to show off in front of her. She told me how Ben was richer than me and even had his own house, which his father had bought for him. She kept yelling that I needed to change myself and become more complacent. She then sneered at me, saying that at the end of the day, women wanted a house husband and not a man who could earn more than them. At this point, I asked her to shut up, as I was tired of arguing with her in the middle of the night. I told her she had until the end of the month to move out, and until then, she could sleep on the couch. I could hear her still grumbling, but I ignored her and went back to sleep. Fortunately, over the week, Lily started to pack and slowly move out her things. I was starting to get excited, thinking about the prospect of finally having this entire place all to myself. On her last night, when I came back home, I was shocked to see Lily and Ben sitting on our couch. I looked at her curiously, and she informed me that because this was her last night at this place, she wanted to show Ben where she lived. I couldn't believe the audacity she had to bring another man into this place without asking me, knowing that I was going to be back. I didn't want to be rude to Ben, as I thought this wasn't his fault, so I shouldn't be rude to a guest. I politely greeted him, but to my surprise, he looked at me with contempt and didn't even bother to acknowledge my presence. I decided not to take it personally and went to freshen up. Later, while I was cooking pasta for myself in the kitchen, Ben came to get some water. He stood there watching me for a minute, which made me feel awkward. I asked him if there was something he wanted, but he gave me the same contemptuous look as before. I decided to ignore his presence and continue to cook so I could take the meal back to the bedroom and eat in peace. After I was done eating, as I was about to come downstairs, I overheard Lily and Ben talking. Ben was telling Lily how lucky she was to have upgraded herself after dating someone who looked like me. I froze in shock as I heard Lily laughing and agreeing with him. Then Ben asked her why she ever fell in love with me, and that's when Lily said something that completely shattered me. She confessed that she had used me because I was gullible enough to pay for our dates when we went out and used to lend her money during college. She even revealed that I had paid more than half of the rent for the last couple of years, which allowed her to save a lot of money. I could not believe what I had just heard. I had always suspected that she might have used my good nature to pay more than half the rent, but I had no idea she had been using me since the very beginning. Then she continued to talk about our relationship and basically made fun of me in every way. I was going to burst out in tears because of how humiliated I felt, but I didn't want to let them see me in this state, so I quietly headed back upstairs and spent the rest of the night quietly crying into my pillow. The next morning, when I woke up, Lily and Ben were gone. She had taken the last of her things and had officially moved out. I walked around the house in a daze, and I knew that I was finally free from her. I cannot begin to describe how light I felt, knowing that she was finally gone from my life in this house. I cried tears of happiness and danced around the house. Then I set about cleaning the entire place so that there would be no reminder of her anywhere. Over the next few weeks, I thoroughly enjoyed living on my own. I had stopped caring about what Lily and Ben had spoken about me. All was going well until 2 months later, when our mutual friend informed me at work that Lily was getting married to Ben. I was taken aback because it all seemed too sudden. Our friend showed me their engagement pictures, and they appeared to be very happy together. While I felt a slight pang of sadness for how Lily had used me all these years, I also recognized that I would have never been satisfied with her anyway. Therefore, I was pleased that she had found someone who could make her happy. That same night, when I came back home and checked my mailbox, I found an unexpected wedding invitation. My eyes widened in shock as I realized it was from Lily and Ben. I was starting to think it was maybe a mistake where she had invited me just as a courtesy until I opened the invitation and saw that she had scribbled something in the corner. Written inside the card was, "I want you to attend my wedding so you can see the grand life I'm going to have with Ben." It slowly sunk in that she had invited me only in the hopes of showing off her marriage, her rich partner, and her newfound wealth. I took a deep breath, trying to understand why she would even send an invitation like this to me when all I had done was take care of her over the years. All the years of anger and frustration I had pent up inside kept boiling out, and I knew that I had to get petty with her. I RSVP'd with a yes. I had a plan forming in my head and was determined to make Lily regret ever inviting me. I opened up my laptop and began scrolling through Ben's social media profiles. I scanned each and every social media picture that he had ever posted. As luck would have it, I finally found what I was looking for. Just 6 months ago, Ben had broken up with his ex-girlfriend, Jessica. He had several posts with her, and their pictures dated back to high school, which meant they had clearly been together for a very long time. I sent a friend request to Jessica from my profile, and when she accepted, I sent her a message. To my surprise, she responded, and we started talking. I was upfront with her about my identity as Lily's ex, and told her about my plan to invite her, as my +1, to their wedding. She seemed intrigued and curious as to why I was reaching out to her, but I explained everything to her. Over the next few weeks, Jessica opened up about how Ben had cheated on her multiple times, and his latest affair had been with Lily. This was news to me because I had no idea about this. She continued to reveal how Ben was always into younger women. Hence, she wasn't surprised much when he announced that he was in love with Lily while they were still dating. As you can imagine, they had a pretty bad breakup, and she had blocked him from everywhere despite him telling her that they should remain friends. From the way she talked about Ben, it seemed like she was still in love with him. I also told Jessica about my own experience with Lily and how she had used me for all those years. I poured my heart out to her, describing everything that Lily had put me through and how Ben and Lily had made fun of me. Jessica was shocked to hear about the way Lily had treated me and spoken about me. After hearing everything, Jessica finally agreed to accompany me. I felt excited thinking of the look on my ex and Ben's faces when they saw me attend their wedding with Jessica. On the day of the wedding, as expected, Lily's eyes widened when she saw me walking in with my special guest. She must have immediately recognized Jessica as Ben's ex. We ignored her expressions and pretended to find our designated seats. Lily came up to me and angrily whispered, asking why I was here with Ben's ex, but I simply smiled. She could not make a scene in front of everyone and had to begrudgingly walk back up the aisle, eyeing me angrily. When it was time for the groom to make his entrance, everyone stood up from their seats. Ben looked stunning in his black tuxedo as he walked down the aisle with his father by his side. The ceremony went smoothly, and the celebrations moved to the reception area. Ben must have gone to change because he was wearing a different suit when he entered the area. After witnessing the wedding ceremony, Jessica and I stayed low-key throughout the reception. We made sure to ignore Lily's angry glares and Ben's obvious irritation. I knew she desperately wanted to confront us, but she couldn't afford to cause a scene at her own wedding. Meanwhile, I just watched everything unfold with a sense of inner satisfaction, knowing that the impact of my presence was just beginning. When it was time for the toasts, Lily finally couldn't hold back any longer. She approached us while everyone was distracted and with a forced smile hissed through clenched teeth, "What are you two doing here? Do you really think you can ruin my special day?" Jessica, with an equally sarcastic smile, answered before I could, "Oh, Lily dear, we're not here to ruin anything. We're here to celebrate. After all, it's such a big day, isn't it?" Lily was on the verge of losing her temper, but I interrupted her before she could say something that might draw attention from the guests. "Let's keep up appearances, Lily. You wouldn't want your husband to know that you're still so obsessed with me, right?" Her eyes flashed with rage, but she turned on her heel and walked back to Ben, who had no idea what was happening. Throughout the rest of the party, Jessica and I made a point of looking like we were having a great time, laughing together and exchanging knowing glances. It wasn't entirely an act. The truth is, while this started as a plan for revenge, I was genuinely beginning to enjoy Jessica's company. She was sharp, witty, and above all, she understood what I had gone through. Then something unexpected happened. As we danced, I noticed Ben approaching Jessica. He seemed agitated, and soon I realized they were arguing in hushed tones. I moved closer discreetly and overheard Ben saying something like, "Why are you here with him? This has nothing to do with you. We're over, remember?" Jessica laughed, but it was a bitter laugh. "We're over because you cheated on me, Ben, remember? And now you expect me to care about who I hang out with?" I just watched from a distance while Ben struggled to keep his cool. Jessica wasn't making it easy for him, and I knew that all of this was messing with his head. That's when I decided to turn up the heat. I grabbed a glass of champagne and walked up to the microphone that had been used for the toasts. "Sorry to interrupt, everyone," I began with a smile on my face. All eyes turned to me, including those of Lily and Ben, who looked incredulous. I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank the bride, Lily, for inviting me to this very special event. I paused, savoring the tension in the air. For those who don't know me, I'm her ex, and I'm really happy to see that she's found a man who can give her the life she's always dreamed of. By the way, Ben, congratulations on your acquisition. Your marriage. The room fell into an awkward silence, with guests exchanging uncertain glances. Lily looked like she was on the verge of breaking down in tears while Ben clenched his fists, barely containing his anger. But I wasn't finished yet. I'd also like to raise a glass to honesty and transparency in a relationship. I lifted my glass, staring directly at Ben and Lily. "May you never lack them like I did." Then I took a slow sip, smiling mockingly. At this point, Ben was furious. He slammed down his glass and started storming toward me, but a few mutual friends stepped in to hold him back before he could reach me. "You've crossed the line," he shouted while I just kept smiling. You think this is funny? You think you can just come here and ruin our day?" I looked him in the eye, still calm, and said, "I didn't ruin anything, Ben. I'm just here to see how things go when you can't buy someone's respect or love." As he struggled against those restraining him, Lily began to sob, tears streaming down her face as she shouted at Ben, "Why are you paying attention to him? This is our day, Ben, not his." But what happened next was even more unexpected. Jessica, who had stayed by my side in silence until now, stepped forward and, in front of everyone, said loudly, "You know, Ben, you deserve this, because I remember very well how you toyed with my feelings while you were already eyeing Lily." Her words echoed through the room, and now all the guests were witnessing a spectacle they never saw coming. Ben, speechless, looked at Jessica with a mix of anger and surprise, and at that moment Lily, consumed by desperation, started yelling, "I should never have invited you, you ungrateful jerk. I just wanted to show you that I'm better off without you." I merely shrugged and replied, "And I wanted to see if you really were. Apparently, you still have something to prove to me." By now, the venue security was approaching, but Jessica and I were already ready to leave. As we walked toward the exit, I could hear Lily and Ben shouting, echoing through the hall. The fairy tale wedding she had planned had turned into a disaster, and in a way, I felt satisfied to have given her a taste of what she had tried to do to me. On the way out, Jessica turned to me and asked, "Do you think we went too far?" I chuckled softly and replied, "I think we went just as far as we needed to." In the days that followed, I heard rumors that Ben and Lily had a massive fight and their marriage was already on the rocks. She was desperately trying to keep up appearances, but everyone knew that their marriage had started on a disastrous note. Although I knew that this probably made me a bit vengeful, I couldn't help but feel that for the first time in a long time, I had gotten a sense of justice. After the wedding scandal, Jessica and I left the venue with a sense of accomplishment. We went on with our lives, but I couldn't help but feel curious about what happened with Lily and Ben after that disastrous night. Of course, the gossip soon started to reach my ears through mutual friends who unknowingly fed my curiosity. In the first few days after the wedding, things seemed calm, but I knew that was just a facade. Ben and Lily were trying to show on social media that they were a happy couple, posting smiling photos and making sure to attend social events as if everything was perfect. But I knew Lily well enough to recognize that her smiling face hit a storm that was about to explode, and that storm hit faster and harder than I expected. Not long after, I learned that their honeymoon was a complete disaster. Ben, who had kept quiet during the wedding scandal, exploded with anger as soon as their plane touched down at the exotic destination they had chosen. He couldn't get the humiliation of facing Jessica and me out of his head, the loser that he and Lily had so often belittled. They fought almost the entire trip. Every dinner, every outing they went on, the tension was palpable. Ben accused Lily of inviting Jessica and me on purpose, while Lily cried, trying to defend herself and insisting she only wanted to show she had moved on. He called her selfish, saying she only thought of herself and couldn't understand how she could be so reckless as to nearly ruin her own reputation on their wedding day. When they returned from the trip, things got even worse. Ben, who initially seemed unconcerned about money, started pressuring Lily to contribute more to their expenses, as he was now dealing with the financial strain of the extravagant wedding and honeymoon. The love and romance quickly vanished, and each day brought a new argument about money, about who was contributing more, and about their future. Then one day, a mutual friend called me, eager to share the latest news. Lily had moved back in with her parents after a fight so intense that the neighbors almost called the police. "You won't believe this," he said, trying to contain his excitement. "They're practically separated, and from what I heard, he's the one who kicked her out." I tried not to show too much interest, but I couldn't help but smile with satisfaction upon hearing that Ben, the perfect, wealthy guy, was now alone in the house his father had bought for him, while Lily found herself forced to return to the very place she had tried so hard to escape, her parents' home, without the financial freedom she had built up over the years, while I paid more than half of her rent. A few weeks later, I found out that Ben had stumbled upon old messages of Lily's where she talked about how she had used my generosity to save money while we were together. That was the final straw for him. "She used me just like she used you," he supposedly told one of the friends who still kept in touch with both of them. The humiliation he felt during the wedding, now mixed with the bitterness of realizing that maybe he wasn't so different from me in her eyes, made Ben feel betrayed. Lily, seeing that she couldn't save the marriage, fell into despair. Around that time, Lily started trying to contact me again. At first, it was simple messages, as if she wanted to clarify what had happened at the wedding. Then came the phone calls, one after another, where she cried, saying she didn't know what to do, that Ben had left her with nothing. I ignored every attempt, blocking each new number she used to try and reach me. I'd already done my part. She used me, humiliated me, and tried to step on me, but now she was sinking on her own. One day, when I was leaving work, I ran into Jessica, and we ended up going for coffee together. She always knew the latest updates before I did. "Did you hear that Ben put the house up for sale?" she asked with a mischievous smile. "Looks like things didn't turn out as well as he expected. and apparently his parents aren't too happy with how he handled all of this either. I think he's lost their financial support. I couldn't help but laugh. The great Ben, who once seemed untouchable in his privileged position, was now trying to sell the house he had used to impress Lily. I knew that his downfall wasn't entirely my doing, but I couldn't help but feel that my presence at that wedding had been the spark that set off everything that came after. The months passed, and Lily stopped trying to contact me. She seemed to have finally realized that there was nothing more she could get from me. As for me, I was enjoying every moment of my new life. My career was going well, and living alone was everything I needed to start fresh. One night, while I was watching a movie, I got a message from Jessica. She had come across a long social media post from Lily, talking about learning from mistakes and the importance of valuing those who are by your side. It was clearly a regretful message about what she had lost, an attempt to paint herself as the victim after everything she had done. I just laughed and replied to Jessica, "Some people never change." Deep down, I knew that even if Lily tried to rewrite her version of the story, I had finally come out on top. She had tried to humiliate me, but she ended up sinking in her own arrogance. Ben, who entered her life as the grand prize, had become a constant reminder that appearances don't last forever. And as for me, I moved on, free from the weight of both of them, with the satisfaction of knowing that the best revenge was watching their relationship crumble without me lifting a finger beyond accepting that invitation.